My guest is the NPA Boss, Hassan Tampoli. He's also the NPP parliamentary candidate for Ushao in the northern region. You were telling us about the tracking system, so you pretty much have that figured out.
That's
but
right.
you also have fuel stations that are operating illegally. Tell us how you've been managing this. I have a story here published on 25th January 2019. 3 fuel stations asked to shut down for shortchanging customers. I believe this is a regular thing. How do you deal with it? When you shut them down, then what happens?
So this pretty much the mandate of the Ghana Standards Authority. They are responsible for setting the standards at the pump. So we'll grant the licenses and the permits for you to operate. But in terms of the measuring pump, it's the Ghana Standards Authority that is responsible for that.
How about this story? 18th July 2019, 82% of LPG stations in Central Region identified as high risk. This according to the Central Regional Minister. Again, that's not your mandate?
That is our mandate. That's one. We did the risk assessments of all LPG stations across the country. We did that using different parameters. The site where the station is, and then the personnel operating the stations, and then the engineering arrangements at the stations. So in the event or unlikely event of any accidents, what will be the impacts on human life and property? Those are the bases upon which we're able to make that assessment. And a chunk of them are high risk stations. Those that are in outskirts, did not pose considerable risk to human life and property. But depending on where they were sited, we consider them as high risk. And we have an obligation to communicate to them that where they are high risk and they need to observe higher standards in terms of safety and security of their own personnel and then the general public as well as their customers.
So Ghana Standards Board would usually, or authority will usually go around and do the inspection. Do you also have a team that goes around inspecting how stations are operating?
We do that. We have more or less like 3 teams. So we have the inspection and monitoring team, led by the chief inspector. So they go and check for standards as far as safety, security, and then basically HSC is concerned. So they go around and they do like 3 trips annually. And we have regional offices across the country. So in every region we have teams move around to go and do the monitoring and inspection. Now in between something may come up, so you have to do some random monitoring again. So basically that's what they do. We have another team that is called the Petroleum Product Marking Scheme that operates under the Quality Assurance Department. Now they go around to check for the quality of the petroleum products and to check for contaminants, adulteration, and so on and so forth, to check whether they have introduced any foreign element into the product to increase the volume, but it will in the end lead to tax losses and also affect vehicular efficiency. So we have another team that does that. They also do a random and then they also have their regular movement. So we have different group that, and we have another team that also goes around to check for whether or not you have lifted the product at the right source, the UPPF, to check for the volumes and to compare whether or not there is any drop and so on. And for the UPPF claims as well. The UPPF is the Unified Petroleum Pricing Fund, which is solely dedicated to ensure uniformity in price of petroleum products across the country. If you check the price of cement in Accra, it's different from the price of cement in Suhum because they would have added transportation. When you move further to Nkoko, they add. All the way to Gushegu, the price will change. But for price of petroleum products, it is the same for Accra as it would be in Paga or a Lubo or a Flao, regardless of the distance. So that mechanism is inbuilt in the price to lead to some amount of equalization in the price of petroleum products. So basically that is what it does. So they have to go around to be sure that people are doing the right thing. You don't file for a distance in Hamili only to dump the products at pump. So we have to check for
so the transportation allowance will not come in. It will not be an incentive for corruption purposes.
So we do a lot of the monitoring and inspection threefold.
Let's talk more on safety. On the atomic gas explosion, you remember that very well. At a cabinet meeting on 12 October 2017, President Akufo-Addo ordered the implementation of interim safety measures for all LPG infrastructure across the country. Is that what you're touching on, or is this something special? And how has that been so far?
So this the cabinet directive is what necessitated the risk assessment that I'm talking about.
Okay.
And that's what the central regional minister was referring to.
Okay.
So basically, there was also a ban on the granting of construction permit and then no objection for the construction of petroleum products and LPG stations across the country. That cabinet directive still stands until cabinet vacates its own directive. We are implementing it as it should be.
Okay.
Those who had the test run permits at the time that the cabinet gave directive, the Minister for Energy was mandated by cabinets to give us approval, to give further approval for them to continue, because they have gotten to a point where they just had to test run and then start operating. So those ones were done. So until cabinet communicates to us, we still stand by the directive of cabinet.